so let's take a look at logging with OIM and WebLogic. It's kind of weird. So here we are. We have our scheduled task. We were using to test our helper class up here. And we had sysout print line. So what we did is we added Java util logging and we put some logging in. And so now we're going to build and deploy this thing. All right, so it's built. Let's push it. Now we use our scheduled task, assuming we're still awake. There we go. Okay, we got our load jar task. Let's see what it's doing. All right, it's already loading it, so we'll just execute. Wait for it to finish. I think I could have done a little better job on this mess. Okay, it ran. So now let's go and run it and see what happens. Okay, if we look at the logs over here, okay, you'll get this message when you import the jar. So, okay, let's, now the thing is, okay, so let's run it. All right, let's go back here, test OIMHelper, let's run that. Okay. Be nice if you could update this without it going away. There we go. Okay, so if we go back here, we just see our sysout print line. Okay, the reason being is because if you look at the logging configuration, you have to, first of all, it's sending it to a different file, and then of course you have to go in and turn it on. So in order to do that, you have to go into the Enterprise Manager, and you go into here. That thing will open up here in a second, and then you pick the server. You right click, go to logs, log configuration, and you'll get to where I was over here. Okay, so now we want to go look for our packages. All right, so we're using tech Zephon. Now look what, this is very interesting here. So you'll see there's an uppercase, and then down here you'll see a lowercase. All right, now by default everything will be in warm. Okay, and you won't actually get a choice here until you run it once. So if this is the first time you deployed it and you didn't run it and you came in here to look for it to turn the logging on, you won't see it. You'll have to actually run it first, and then WebLogic will pick it up. Now if you make changes here like I did, you can go up here and click the apply button, and it'll save it for now. The next time you restart OIM, the logging will go back to default. So that's how I usually do it. I just set it for the one I want, and the next restart will set it back. So, okay, so it was in warn, so I set it on trace, and we didn't see anything in the log. All right, so now what happens is OIM is going to put it over here. Okay, you have to be in here to see the logs. All right, so now we can tail the log. All right, so we'll put the mark there. We'll run the job again. There we go. Okay, so let's back up a little bit here. Okay, so here is some trace stuff. I just saw trace. Here's our class. Okay, here's our lookup. And over there is our properties for the job. Yep, there we go. So that's the thing. So OIM is going to put these in the ODL file, and you can see here when you look at the configuration, that's where it's going. Now, if you want it to go to the console, you have to actually configure this on your own and go into the logging file and actually make an edit. And if you want, you can even put these in its own file. Like you could create a text.zephon.log in each one of these servers, and it'll only have the logs for this code, which is how I usually do it in a production environment. But for testing, it really doesn't matter. The thing is, you have to kind of know it's going there, because if you sit here and stare at the console, you're not going to see anything. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's explain the difference between the uppercase and lowercase. Okay, so back in the day in OIM history, OIM originally used log4j. And of course, OIM originally didn't run under WebLogic. It ran under Tomcat. It was written in struts. So once Oracle bought it, of course, that log4j didn't agree with their WebLogic ODL stuff, which is primarily Java util logging. So I think in one or two releases of OIM ago, what they did, Thortec had their own logger. It was called the Thortec logger. It's basically this one right here. So, and it was log4j, and it has all the same log4j type stuff. So you have error and debug and info, and it's basically a front end to log4j. So what Oracle did later on was they made this work with Java util logging as the delegate logger here. Okay, so now when you say debug, where is it? Here it is. So when you say debug, it goes to the delegate and it defaults to fine. So you're basically using the jutil logger. Now the interesting thing here is when you do that, when you use the Thortec logger, which is what most of these classes used in the old days, Thortec is going to, let's see, is it in here? So Thortec is going to uppercase your log entry. So let's do that. Let's go over here. Let's take these out. And let's do this and watch. No, that won't be there. Okay, see that? That'll pop up, right? Now we don't need the level anymore, but now all our stuff is broken. So these become debug, this becomes debug, and this becomes error without the level. Okay? So once we do that, let's clean that up. We don't need it anymore. Let's clean and build. All right, now we'll redeploy this puppy. Over here, back to here. Okay, let's make sure we got the right stuff. Yep, okay. All right, now we got to sit here and twiddle our thumbs a few minutes. Check the time, 8:58, 9:06, or-ish. All right, that one took off, so now we're loaded again, so let's run that again. run this 902. All right, let's go take a look at what happened here in the logs. We probably still got our trace, I think. Let's see. Oh, probably not, because we didn't turn it on. So let's go over here in Enterprise Manager and let's hit a refresh here. Okay, now. All right, where is it? Well, it still stayed here, which is interesting. Let's try this again. Nope. Okay, it's making a liar out of me. So, right, let's see what happens then. Let's do this. Let's go over here, put this in here. And we'll see if it actually logs to the same place it did before. No, we don't want to do that. It's already running. There we go. So it's interesting. It's using the REST services. Okay, nothing got logged, of course. Let's go back in here and see if it picked it up yet. Yep, I think I broke it. I'm going to have to probably delete this one out of the thing. You know what? We'll just, I'll restart OIM and we'll come back to this and take another look. Okay, I think we can wrap up this logging stuff here now. All right, so we just restarted OIM, which basically set the logging back to default. Now you notice here we don't see any tech at all, uppercase or lowercase. Okay, and that's because, once again, we haven't actually run anything yet. So unless you actually go into the logging files and make these changes permanent, or when you make the changes, you go down to the bottom and click this persist. The next time you restart, everything goes back to square one. So just a little tip there. Usually the thing to do is turn them on and then go in and look at the file and then set up a separate logger so you can put them to a different file. That's really the best production thing to do. But for this, it'll do. All right, so now let's go in here. Let's go to our scheduled task again. Okay, and let's run test OIM again. All right, go back here. It's OIM, go here, tail the new one. Of course, we probably won't see anything because we don't have it turned on yet. And it probably didn't even run yet. What do we got here? Nope, not yet. All right, there it went. Yep. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, I'm not seeing anything here, so let's go back over here and see what we got. If anything shows up. All right, something is definitely, let's do this. There we go. Okay, so now you see once we switched, okay, we see now that our properties, which is using JUL, is still lowercase, but when we switched over to Thortec Logger now, we now have our everything is in uppercase. See? So if we set this to trace and go up here and click apply, okay, now go back here. Let's do this. Right. Actually, we can just do this too. We can kill it. Oh, I'm doing a VI, it ain't gonna work. So let's tail, and then we'll do that. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's go up here now. Got that on. Let's give it another shot. Yep. All right, I think we got it. Let's see. There we go. So you see now it's coming out in uppercase as opposed to lowercase the way it was before. So depending on which logger you want to use, this is how you set it up. You can either use the Thortec, which turns into uppercase JUL, or you can use the regular JUL, which turns into lowercase JUL. But once again, the trick here is that it has to run in OIM first before it's going to show up in the log. And when you do add it to the log, it's going to default to this diagnostic file, not to the console. For that, you're going to have to go in and change the logging config. All right, and there you have it. Testing the API, using the API in a scheduled task, deploying the wrapper, using the wrapper in a scheduled task, setting up the logging for both. That's it.